and Australia, even though the US is the main problem area because they have the same Blu-ray region code, to consider new ways to stock content. And you think Aniplex of America, okay, it's part of Aniplex, it should be free of all the problems. It's like Bees and Bandai Entertainment, they're all licensees as well. They're acquiring content at the same time, so they have to obey the same rules. So their solution is to try and look at collective models where they make the content digitally accessible. So it's not like they're saying you shouldn't, do you have $500? No, when you're too poor to watch our content, jog on. they're saying legitimately, look, we're making it accessible on Netflix, on Hulu, on Crunchyroll, on wherever we can make it available, we're going to make it available to you. We're not going to say it's an exclusive behind a paywall. But we are saying that if you want to have a physical copy of it, you're going to have to pay a premium because actually on VOD even in Japan, there are lower quality streams aired on things like Nico Nico Doga versus what you get on Hulu and such. And there are fans who are even noticing that there are raw, like Japanese people are ripping RAWs and things like Hulu and such as well, which give you a far higher quality version not long after the Japanese broadcast now, if it's on a lower quality. So that's even a problem now. Not so much so when it's easily avoidable, but the real issue is, like the physical product is people are having to start saying, well, either we're going to put a massive delay on the Blu-ray set, or remove the Japanese track as Sentai have done, or the other solution which has been bandied around is burning in the English subs to the Japanese version, because that is more statistically likely to put off someone who wants it in Japanese only. But everyone's being asked to consider new ways of solving the problem. We all kind of understand. I mean, it's not what anyone wants to. I don't think Sentai wanted to remove the Japanese language from their Blu-ray. It's the kind of stuff of nightmares, but...
Wouldn't it be easier just to make everything just all DVDs region free and just have the PAL and NTSC versions and distribute everything at the same time?
It's a legitimate question.
Theoretically yes, legally no. I think.
Well, no, you could do it. The question is then, do you like paying $500 a box set for 12 apps?
If yes, price normalization.
Yeah, basically you'd see price normalization in the other direction, because anime is, like an the answer was, it's just as much of a niche in Japan as it is in the West for stuff like, for everything outside of Inazuma 11 and such. I mean, the amount of TV slots for anime in Japan, which are not from midnight to 3 AM, are surprisingly slim. The one block which is there, which had Full Metal Alchemist, Code Geass, Gundam 00, and soon to be Maggie, is one of the few for mainstream, what we would consider like FMA style anime. Basically, the rest is for children's anime. Basically, and the rest sits on, no, it's anime, sits on like the midnight slot on Fuji, but it's exceptionally good. It doesn't mean we don't want to promote it and such, and we would build a brand for it in the West. But the trouble is, when you're dealing with a market there in Japan, which even there on TV, it's becoming more like Tiger and Bunny, for example. I mean, how many people have seen Tiger and Bunny here, or want to see it? I mean, it's the best way to do it, like in Japan, they simulcast it first on Ustream. It's why Ustream is one of the key sponsors on, I think it's Sky High, in it and such, because they put the money in and they put it on. Ustream TV only took it, but it did amazingly well. I mean, no one expected it to do, well, I think there was expectations of it doing well, but it really, like, skyrocketed, basically, in Japan. And suddenly TV went, oh, that looks quite good. The internet's got it. We'll broadcast it too. Okay. Like, so it was originally only meant to have a very limited broadcast versus simulcast in Japan. So it's, like, they're trying to find solutions price-wise. Basically, even in Japan, and it doesn't help them when Amazon's saying, about 200, about 70 quid you could pay for 2x. How would you like to pay 50 quid for the whole series on Amazon Japan? So, lots of stuff to sort out. Anime is one of the biggest, Jerome points out actually, manga, anime is one of the biggest selling like commodities on Amazon Japan, along with video games and in books. So if any company is any consortium has any chance of saying we need you to limit importation shops on your Amazon Japan store, it's going to be the anime industry. I mean, Games did it a couple of years ago in Japan and said back off with the importation. They went, okay. In the USA, if we did that for anime, everyone would be thrown out the window, to be honest. Because Amazon buys it. In the US, I believe it buys actual stock still. Like it doesn't do on consignment still.
Yeah.
So they own the stock after it goes in. So it's like going into, it's like you buying a DVD from me going, actually, I'd quite like you to watch it in dub only, please. I believe you would tell me to F off politely if I walked in. But A, you'd question how I got into your home. I would say through one of the windows on the, if you're up on the several floors up, I'm going to have to climb. It's going to be difficult, I'm not going to lie. But if I want to dictate to you how to watch your DVDs, I'm not going to go to, I'm not going to hold back anyway on it.
Can I make one other suggestion
about
the issue of how much you fit on the disc as well? If you're going to do CodePal and NTSC on the same disc, you're effectively halving the amount of space you've got to actually use. The quality is going to drop, and that I think is also a question of what you want to pay for and what you're going to get for it. And I think the other thing worth mentioning is in Japan, still after all this time, whether we like it or not, culturally speaking, and in a world recession, they're going to worry about the home market first. Everybody worries about your home market first. Make your money there, everything else is gravy. Can we get the gravy first time? We could, but the outlet at the beginning is a risk.
Also, how many people have LCD or LED TVs or plasma? Something which is, most of those will not give a damn if it's power NTSC, which is an issue which is not lost on me by honest, like, to be honest, for importation and such from the US to UK as well. Like, it's mostly a friendly conversation. I just did 40 meetings wall to wall for 10 days in Japan, and most of the time it's like, oh, the US is a problem for you. Damn line! I didn't say that literally, that would have been in poor taste and probably quite problematic for the atmosphere of the meeting, but yes. Like NTSC and PAL is becoming less of an issue now as well. Anyone with another question?
Oh, I'm going to throw one at you, just an easy one. What's the what impact do you think the data economy is having? You know, things like iTunes, Xbox Live.
Honestly, electronic sell-through like iTunes, PlayStation Network, and Xbox is still in their infancy for anime. Mostly because it's very hard. Like the TV series, for example, you have to sell them in packages, like of episodes or individual episodes. And how many, like, when you price something by episode, there's always going to be a price point where nobody's particularly happy. But there's also a minimum one where it's going to, like, you have to pay a lot of money to get content onto places like iTunes if you're an aggregator. And so you have to set it as a kind of a price point balance to at least make back that cost. And so it's still developing, honestly. I mean, how many people buy anime via iTunes or Xbox? Or how many people watch Gundam Unicorn, for example, via PlayStation Network? 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's 3 out of a room of a lot. Maybe some.
A room of a lot of people who are the direct target market.
Yes.
I've noticed a lot of American anime is being marketed as both a DVD and Blu-ray combo package.
Yeah.
Do you see that happening in the UK market as well?
I do indeed for some titles. Persona 4 will be a hybrid pack, for example, kind of using Kaze's collector style. The trouble is with collector packs is it only works if you're putting the actual quality of the packaging up as well. Otherwise, you're just jamming a few more discs in an Amere set, and it doesn't really add more value, barring more discs of the same content in HD and SD for you. But I do see it happening a lot more. A is a way of it's one potential solution to the whole price point issue that Japan has with collective, like full sets. On the other side, it's an interesting way to present a product. It's kind of a way of trying to convince people to upgrade, I guess.
I mean, I'd always kind of seen it as a very desperate strategy. It's like, in general, DVDs are more accessible. You have more things that can play them. I mean, more often you'll have a PC that can play a DVD rather than a PC that can play Blu-ray. Yeah, it's true. Blu-ray uptake for PCs has been pretty low, actually. I think they're gunning more for the home. It's true, they are ignoring the PC market when it comes to everyone assumes that HD download of some variety, legit or not, will be mainly, which is a misnomer, I know. But there
that general lack of consideration to the PC market there. I mean, how many people do watch their content on PCs here? I do. Well, Mac, so it's really Fisher Price. You know, if I press the duck shape on, it makes a duck sound. It's enough for a simple man like me, to be honest.
There's various licensing issues with Blu-ray and PC in terms of software.
Yeah,
unlike DVDs. So
that's the issue today.
hard
Also, whoever designed those logos is a lucky so-and-so, because they make money from every time you were to put a Blu-ray or DVD logo on.
Or region logo.
Yeah, or region logo.
In fairness though, you have the same problem with DVD before VLC and Microsoft Media Center.
Yeah.
Where up until that point, Media Player wasn't allowed to include video codecs, DVD codecs, just because it annoyed the DVD industry.
The entertainment industry.
Well, Microsoft, I get entertainment out. But no, it's not a problem that's it's not a problem that's unique to Blu-ray, and I guess it was overcome noticeably about the same time we started being able to get open source DVD reading software.
I guess the answer is it does seem a desperate strategy, but at the same time DVD is basically reaching the end of its actual lifespan. Honestly, I mean, it's reaching the end of its lifespan as an entertainment, a way of transmitting entertainment stuff, like putting a film on and such, because the value, when you output it now, you're limited to what you can charge for it unless you're doing a collector's edition. But if you're charging a collector's edition, people mostly want an HD version too. So there's a happy balance. I mean, for a show like Persona 4, the target market is limited. I mean, it's not, you're never going to be gunning for the same market you would with a widescreen potential show like Dragon Ball, you know, Naruto, Bleach, even Blue Exorcist or Fullmetal Alchemist, for example. You're gunning for a market who remember like the PlayStation RPG series, want to check it out, or have a particular love of Japanese RPGs. And even then, I mean, it's like saying people who like Final Fantasy will immediately like Persona. That's not going to happen. So like you're targeting a niche within a niche, and some of the people around them, basically. So in that kind of market, the perception is not so much that it's desperate, but you can offer a better value package. If you do the two together, if you present it just as an Amway set that's flimsy, then yes, it's a desperate measure for arguably desperate times, but when it wasn't in the industry. I can't think of a time, to be honest, it wasn't, so So, kind of not always, I think, is the answer. Like, it's not always a desperate measure, it's just a way of trying to solve the same problem everyone's facing right now in it.
Yes, going sort of back to the Aniplex price point thing, I'm confused as to how the Italian distributor of Magica managed to get such a good deal, given that if you're Japanese, it doesn't matter whether you're telling the English off or telling the Italian off.
Yeah, but it matters as to whether or not you can Google search in Italian for Magica Magica, and your first searches, if you Google Magica Magica, will always come up in English first.
Oh, so it's just that Italy is obscure.
Well, to Japan, yes.
So, yeah.
No, I'm not going to go there. But yeah, like basically, like in terms of internet search at least, if you're Japanese and you're searching, your first thoughts will be, is America cheaper? Your second thoughts will be, is France cheaper? And your final thought would be, dear Lord, is the UK now? No, because we have the same region code, and Japanese deep Blu-ray players are generally more strict about region code. They tend to go for the US only there, which is why Magica Magica in Italy got away with it. And it became #1 in Blu-ray on Amazon Italy, which was actually quite a surprise, because I got an email from a certain person at Aniplex going, look, it's doing well in Italy. I'm like, well, that's nice, but... like, to be fair, I argued at the time, actually, true fact of the day is I passed on Magica Magica, because I said if you can't do it day one, same time as the USA, you've lost half your target market immediately, because they will buy, they're markets who will buy the version from the USA, and I can't guarantee at that point. Like, it's nothing, it was nothing grumpy or anything about it. I just said, look, if we want to do this properly, you do it at the same time, the same product, the same quality. And otherwise, because you will get a residual amount of people who will wait, but it keeps decreasing the further away from the initial release it gets. And it's, I reckon it's going to decrease too far by the time to, I think it'll still make money for manga, so that's good, and I said that to Jerome at the time. So, yeah. Still not being licensed in France either.
Really?
Yep. Because no one wants to take it with 10 large just now. Not in a negative way, and don't quote me on that particularly. No one's, but the manga, yes, but no one's taken the anime yet. Germany's taken, everywhere else is taken. France is the big question mark. They could do, but I don't reckon it's going to make. There's a reason nobody went for it, like there, and that's it.
On that, this might be quite a basic question, but how was this decision made to take a certain select manga and anime and send it across the world? How was that decision made? What product is
made region? It's normally based on it's basically, everyone does different things. I mean, to be honest, I think Jerome listens to Twitter. I spin a bottle. We'll throw a bottle, and if it hits the right picture on the back of my wall, then A, I've spilt a lot of good alcohol, and B, then I guess I'm going to have to take it now. Honestly, it's a bit of everything. It depends on what your motivation is. Some companies look at just pure hard statistics. Did this title, related titles, to sell well before? Some people go with gut instinct, some people go with a combination of the two. I wouldn't be surprised if Sentai looked at the moon and picked a star and went, yeah, I'll do.
That's how they always do it.
They actually do have a good strategy, but I'll get into that later. But yeah, there's an endless range of it. The traditional one, though, is what was related to it, could it do well? Or what were the kind of shows which are related to it, which is a problem for things like Magic and Magica, because you end up with a kind of a weird mix of titles and it's hard to read that. Other titles are pretty straightforward, if you look at Blue Exorcist, it's like, yeah, that's kind of like Fullmetal Alchemist and such, based on a popular manga, yep, that'll do. Other titles, you just guess.
Would you say a general section of the industry today is it relative to this time last year?
Well, a warehouse isn't burning down. That was a very bad year. I drank. No, compared to last year, there's less burning warehouses. Almost less in the way of a state of flux just now. I mean, the industry last year was kind of not hanging on the precipice. Every year it's hanging on the precipice, you could argue. It's the risk of working in the entertainment industry. You always risk making yourself obsolete the next week. I'd say there's a few sinister changes. I'd say I don't like the way the internet is being policed right now. I think that should, again, people doing that or thinking that's acceptable shouldn't jog right on. Which is ironic coming from someone who wants to stop piracy. But I don't think the way to stop it is by saying, stop looking at that, that's bad. In fact, like Pirate Bay's views went up when it got blocked because everyone found a way around it. It's like putting something on the top shelf. You're going to want to go and check that out anyway, so don't put it there. Well, bad analogy perhaps.
That only works at some certain age, isn't it? The top shelf.
Well, you say that in Japan, they put the adult stuff down at the bottom shelf, so.
Yeah.
It's not in a way that, let's see what the kids think of it. They just know not to, take kids going to. You don't see many kids looking at it. It's not like. Yeah, well, if you don't make it a taboo issue, it's not. You should be offering a better product than the pirates. Yeah.
Would you say that piracy is, I guess, a contributor to some of the issues that are surrounding distribution in the industry?
For sure, to be honest. I mean, for example, things like Berserk, the way they're released just now is first film, they're releasing 3 films in the space of 1 year, but they're doing the home video in between each one. And that's a big concern when you're doing a release right there, because if you license it, A, it needs to be dubbed into English, which US takes quite a while over normally. And that means that by the time you release it, it's already going to be out on the internet. Before you even do theatrical, the first one will be on the internet, because the home video release window. So, like, those kind of things do factor in. And it's like any industry. I mean, piracy affects like every industry, and some industries are beginning to find ways around it, some aren't. And you know, for some it's easier than others. If you own all your rights initially, you have a company who controls them, like for a standard Hollywood film or such. It's easy. I mean, look at the Avengers and such. People say immediately, oh, that's proof the movie industry isn't dying. No, that's proof of one company getting very smart and going, let's offer a product that works and is based, you know, the sheer source content of it. Like it, so it's not necessarily indicative of the market, but at least people are trying.
Do you reckon that because from what I'm aware, Hulu isn't available in the UK?
Nope.
Do you reckon that if they were to release, you know, to bring out websites like Hulu in the UK, that might kind of reduce the problem?
Nope, because the CPM rate, which is the marketing amount you make per box in Europe, is much, much lower. Well, actually, Hulu lies, basically. Its business model is based around the advertising, so it has about, I think it's a ridiculous amount, like 100 times the amount per advert than every other. Even in the USA, they have the problem of this. Hulu says it can generate a lot more revenue from adverts than anyone else. And to be honest, that might be true. I don't know the stats. I'm not going to get into that one. But if you release it in the UK, like, I mean, there's plenty of sites who tried it. Seesaw tried and it went out of business, but it tried with a lot of BBC and Channel 4 content, which was available via iPlayer and 4OD. You look at Blinkbox and such, the numbers I'm seeing being offered for, like, you know, they're not indicative of a super positive time for anime products. So maybe long term, but they have to, like a lot of things in the advertising industry in Europe has to change first. Like, I'll work my way back.
On the subject of streaming sites, what earth has happened to anime on demand?
I was waiting for that question. I'm going to say no comment at this point, but I may be working on something. I don't know. Couldn't say possibly, but there is something going. Like, I wouldn't be like this if it wasn't something I was working on in the background.
Okay.
To be honest.
Is it something that's likely to make things happen within the next few months? Are we going to see something?
Next few months, yes.
Right. Okay.
Like, absolutely.
Okay.
And it'll be very interesting for people. But it's one of those really crap situations where I have been under a non-disclosure agreement, which gives you an idea of the scale, for approximately 1 year of my life now on this. So I can't say any more than that just now on it. But if it's good enough to have a non-disclosure agreement, it's like putting up a top shelf. You want to find out what it is, but I legally cannot say, or some very burly men will do some very unpleasant things to me, and they won't be gentle.
So I want to find out before that subscription runs out and I have to decide whether to subscribe to somebody else. I
would honestly advise holding off.
Okay.
But I'd also advise holding off subscribing to anyone else either for a short term. You must, like in another few weeks, I might be able to open my gob properly about something. But there's a lot of work going on just now. And I've not forgotten about it, and I'm incredibly sorry I can't say anything else just now.
That's all right. That's all I wanted to hear.
And like anyone else who's on Anime on Demand, I'm sorry about the lack of reactivity just now. There are reasons behind it, and it's not bad. I'm not drinking just now, which gives you an indication that it's not bad. In fact, I'm more positive than I have been in a long time. And I even have positive things to say about other streaming sites, etc. So I mean, it's one of those ones. Next question. Where was the next one?
It was this guy, yeah.
Oh, yeah, far away.
At the manga acquisition panel at I think it was the Birmingham Expo in either March or April, you mentioned, I believe it was mentioned that a lot of your DVD releases were connected to Australian DVD release, particularly from Madman.
That's more how manga does business. It might be an Australian thing to Australian companies, but no, they work on PAL as well. and they tend to synchronize their releases.
So Australian releases are compatible with PAL DVDs as well?
Yeah, they're PAL region, like they're PAL, a different region code normally, except for Blu-ray, I think. But Blu-ray's the same, but DVD's different technically. They play it.
ADV UK used to do occasionally.
Well, Madman, like they do a lot of mastering and such, but the thing is, for Kazik, is because we master for like Europe basis, so France, Germany, and UK, we just do our mastering like there traditionally. In fact, in terms of authoring, we actually beat Disney. We were #1 in France in the industry for authoring, because we do most of our stuff in-house with trained slave, workers. Good avoidance there, Andrew, good avoidance there. No, we do most of our authoring in-house, and we only outsource the parts we have to. So, the quality is super high. Unfortunately, sales aren't equal to Disney's, but we're better than Disney in authoring. The industry view. So I clutch that sheet of paper from the industry magazine and cry to myself to sleep.
Oh,
About authoring from Australia?
Yeah, I know because I worked there.
That's cool. Hey. That's a good memory, man. I was looking for something in particular here. Here we are. I'll just be keeping that on hand now. Well, I don't have alcohol, so I have to do something. Madman, yes.
So I asked that because from the perspective of, say, manga, I know you don't speak for them, but under those circumstances, would it be easier for them, assuming they could work through a contract with the original rights holders, would it be easier for them to release, say, those Australian mastered DVDs in the UK? I say this because of a number of recent acquisitions from Madman that caught my interest quite recently. The two specifically spring to mind are a release of Higurashi Kai and a re-release of the uncut version of Cardcaptor Sakura.
Yes. There's stuff to be honest, it's the same process. They just have to acquire the rights from the right person and just take the author. I know Cardcaptor raised a few eyes previously. The issue is it's sub-only. The Nelvana dub is AWOL, which means which is potentially...
I understand why they do that, because the dub is incredibly different from the sub. The idea of the dub and the sub is that they kind of run parallel to each other.
You would think so, unless it's on ITV apparently.
Well, yeah.
The issue there is, I would have argued that for Cardcaptor, if you really want to target you could make a lot of money from it if you aim it as nostalgia, basically. But the trouble is, the nostalgia that will be remembered is the dub. So I mean, it makes sense. I mean, if it's an uncut version anyway, it's different from the dubbed one. But I reckon. I mean, if the price is right, why not? But I mean, there's no reason why not, and certainly the license in Australia makes it more appealing to licensors here. And although he's not here just now, Tony's acquiring a lot more content just now. I know, because we've discussed titles and such, and I've made certain suggestions here and there.
This sort of branches up into another question. The idea that I presume that these releases, say, of titles they picked up straight from Japan, aren't going to be dubbed, they'll be sub-only. How often is companies here willing to release sub-onlys as opposed to, say, a dub and a sub?
It depends. I mean, if you're going to get if a dub's going to mysteriously appear a couple of weeks later or months later,
like with
Durara, then it's an issue. Sometimes that's just due to no communication about, the dub's kept quiet until the last minute, so you can't really do anything about it at that stage if you've gone to master. If not, I mean, if it's the only way you're going to be able to view it, then so long as the package is something that's interesting and the content is good, then why not try sub-only? It's happened for some content in the last while.
Is this the same thing that's happened with the release of a Blue Exorcist? I believe it's coming out here sub-only, and
yeah, that's the syndrome of Durara hitting again.
Is this just Aniplex?
No, it's not their fault in that one. There was basically the decision was you only dub something if it's a TV opportunity. So for Durara, it was Cartoon Network were interested. In this case, Neon Alley, which is Viz Media California's project, which is a linear project, was looking for content, and I believe, I don't know what happened there with it, but the decision was made to dub it based on that, which is a decision no one could have seen coming, basically. So those kind of titles are very few and far between. Like Card Captor would be subtitle only because, you know, the uncut version is like everyone's pointed out, you know, it wasn't subbed. Which is interesting, and I reckon there's probably a good few people in this room who buy it. Maybe.
I didn't manage to briefly go back
Yeah.
to the point about Australia.
Yeah.
Looking at purchases from the high street, how many actually have region 2 and 4 on the same disc? It's not an uncommon practice.
Yeah.
It's a very common practice because a lot of British shows are popular in Australia as well. Where I work now, we are regularly doing stuff for Australia and have done in the past. That's just how it is. You know? But the one thing that's missing from that particular model is the issue of the BBFC. I remember many years ago Tony at MVM hitting the roof at one of his cons and swearing very, very loudly when it turned out that because he used to wait till he got the check disc, which is the last thing you get before you go to final production, and send that to BBFC. The problem is by that stage you're mastered and ready to go, you've spent a lot of money. And BBFC came back and said, no, we need cuts to the Australian version, at which point he had to shell out all the money again to have the entire thing remastered.
So well, we think about inviting the BBFC to
You
talk
should.
to them.
There are some very good people there these days.
Oh,
You really
That'd
should.
be brilliant.
They're currently in the middle of a twofold project where they're talking to the public again, as they do every few years, and gathering a lot of data and research. They're also talking to the industry. We just had someone in where I worked a few weeks ago on that, and they are taking that research and they are implementing it, and they do this every few years. Back when I started in 2003, this is exactly the sort of thing the BBFC did not do. And over the course of all these years, we've seen so many changes with them, and the key thing now is that you may feel as somebody with a specific taste in film or TV that they are not meeting the needs, but they are certainly doing research to meet the widest set of needs across Britain.
They actually have a talk set specifically for what they do with BBFC stuff in anime. Like I've seen it presented before at the Glasgow Film Festival. Before Evangelion 2.0 started.
Funny that.
Well, just a straw poll. You'd be interested in attending a talk from the BBFC on the...
Who wouldn't be throwing things angrily? There we go. There we go.
Right.
Depends on what they say.
I'm going to chicken wire in front of the stair.
Yeah, that would imply it's going to be like some kind of fighting match in that environment. One side Jerome, one side the BBFC. Go!
People who've never seen the Blues Brothers, which actually might be a big chunk of the audience.
Yeah. So, back on, does that answer the question for sub and dub? Does that answer the sub and dub question? I know we veered away at the end quite significantly.
I think you answered exactly what I wanted to hear.
Cool. I'm sure there were some people up that way, yeah.
Yes, like sort of semi-recently, a lot of people have made quite a lot of money on Kickstarter.
Oh God. Spotify is a marvellous and dangerous thing.
Has anyone in the industry considered using that to gauge interest for titles that they may have previously considered too risky to work?
The trouble with that is, and it's not one which I'm sure hasn't gone past people's minds, is that to really do something with Kickstarter, you have to actually have some sort of permission to do something originally, like with it. So you have to have already bought the rights to do something with it.
And you can't conditionally buy the rights.
Yeah, you can't conditionally say, I'll give you money if enough people say yes on Kickstarter, because that's, you know, most licenses would go, well, that's not really cool, because, you know, we quite like to sell this title, and, you know, so basically, if you're going to commit to it, you have to commit to it from day one. But it is an interesting model for doing something with anime. I just think it's going to, like, ultimately the most interesting thing would be using it as a way of making up lost money from production committing. And if someone wants, like Minami-san at Bones once said he wants to do more sort of, another sort of a Stranger film, for example. And, like, I know that funding the new Ninja Scrolls OVAs is a little bit difficult, for example, because it didn't perform well in Japan. Well, I assume it's not very easy anyway, because they didn't sell well. Ninja Scroll didn't do well in Japan. Like especially so on the remaster side, it's a very good quality thing. That's just not like Sword of a Stranger. It's not what the market's looking for just now. Not enough magical schoolgirls, I don't know. But that's a horrible thought. Sword of a Stranger with magical schoolgirls. Oh, I'd write that one down.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, so. Like, I think there is a model there for Kickstarter. There's a model there for US and UK licensees, and also, any licensee outside of Japan. I just don't think anyone's really got the, because it requires a lot of time to explain as well to the licensor. Because normally they'd be asking, okay, for a film, for example, what's your theatrical plan? What's your home video plan? Are you just going to home video and doing nothing theatrical, which would be the normal UK answer currently. And not wait, what do you mean? If this amount of people do this, you'll do that? It's just confusing as a whole. It's confusing for anyone actually to put a business model together on anime for it just now. For gauging interest, I guess not.
And presumably it means it's just as non-viable for say doing anything extra that will cost more money than simply like dub tracks or.
Well, no, that's like dub tracks. I think is feasible. I think the line is between whether it's feasible to buy the title in the first place. If you don't believe in it, don't bloody buy it. Is my policy. Don't go, well, maybe someone will like. I don't know.
Valkyrie.
Yeah. Like I was gonna say any ADV UK title. Sorry.
It wasn't all that bad.
It wasn't you who licensed them.
I enjoyed Bubble 120.
Yeah, I think the head of ADV.
But not many people enjoyed Red Garden or IGPX, for example, which was a Bees title. So
it does. Yeah,
like swings and roundabouts on it. But like what I mean. If you don't believe in the title, you shouldn't license it. But that doesn't mean to say if you believe, like My Miracle, for example. I really believe in that. It's a very beautiful piece of film, and it's a very big gamble as well, though. And if you want to dub something like that, maybe Kickstarter is the solution. And you offer it in a way that means that if you buy in, I mean, the thing that interested me about Pebble, but what genuinely followed that, for example, is they were offering distributor packs and such, so you could buy enough to sell on, resell basically. However, they've not reflected what the actual market price for it afterwards is going to be yet, so it's a bit dubious to see if you've just bought like 100 full price ones basically or not. But like the issue is that you can offer something where you get one copy at the same price you would as retail price point, like for a regular dub DVD, then you get that plus the dub if you meet the goal that's necessary to make the dub. You for example, if you buy more of them though, you get enough to sell at conventions. The convention pack you can sell on yourself. Promise of not showing up at the convention and selling them as well or whatever. Or full level retail distribution back to an indie retailer wants to sell them or something. Maybe that's an interesting model to do stuff with. But to do that, you'll have to have the rights already, and you have to be willing to go through with it, whatever happens basically. So you have to be setting the goal not so low that it's a cheap, it's some kind of snake oil scheme to make money quickly. Never is with this kind of thing. But you have to set it so that you're willing to go through with it regardless if it's sub only or dub, and you're willing to.
So what's the difference between the price to actually make the dub?
The dub costs anywhere between, take your, a guess on it. I mean, it takes, for a dub for a movie, it depends on the length of the film. As long as you're not talking super long, you're talking anywhere between 40,000 and 80,000 US, depending on. It's a lot of. That's a ballpark figure as well.
That's a big thing to put into the Kickstarter. The difference between what you were going to release and what you could release.
No, I think transparency is super important as well. I think a lot of Kickstarters have failed because they've not been transparent enough about. Sometimes because they don't know what the costs. Star Command's an example of that, where it had to do a second Kickstarter to get the money to make the game because they'd spent a lot on the extras and stuff. They hadn't done a proper. So if you treat it like a business, like a proper business model, then I think you could do something cool with it, and it could be a way of releasing it on for something which would otherwise be a challenge. TV series, not so confident about, but.
Just on that Kickstarter, are we yet to see at any point what happens if a significant portion of the people who have invested, seeing themselves as customers, are not satisfied with the final product they actually receive?
Not yet, but I'm sure it'll happen at some point, and that's the same way as anything. You're micro-investing, whether you're getting money back in shares or getting a product, you don't get guaranteed
I believe
success.
that Kickstarter do have a clause that basically means you're screwed.
Yeah, I mean, basically.
Yes, no, I'm aware the paperwork is there. I'm aware it's there on paper, but I'd be very interested to see what that does for a company in terms of negative feedback, in terms of, you know,
I think the same thing as if you issue a crappy product or something, or hire the horrible ocean PR to do your. Oh, that was a beautiful read for me. I think I cried with tears of laughter at that one, just because it wasn't the anime industry. Not careless whispers on that one. But like, I think basically if you end up with someone who's unhappy with it, it's like any kind of investment. You put in as much as you're comfortable to lose.
But the problem is consumers don't consider themselves investors per se. That's the problem. There's a perception issue here that I think is gradually changing as more people sign up to Kickstarters and similar projects.
I think it'd be
I've yet
interesting
to see something on a big scale. I'm really intrigued to see what's going to happen. I think this is not.
I think products like the Ouya, Pebble, and one or two of the other big dollar projects will actually reveal that, because I reckon will be a percentage of people who find Ouya not to be what they want. For example, anyone who's following that, it was a open source $99 console aiming at porting Android. But for me, it's already going to be better than Apple TV. You can play some games, and it's hackable. So you can use it for basically whatever you want within reason. So it's an interesting project for a programming background. So it's Pebble, you know, it's got open source. Well, it's not open source, but it's an SDK for it. You can build your own stuff, like watch faces, apps, etc. So it was an interest point there. But I think you just have to I think the ultimate debate will be whether you're willing to buy stuff and accept that you could get something which is a dud product, and the fact that there's going to be no real. But what would be interesting is if someone complains and they do a returns policy.
Yes, that's what I'm interested to see as well.
I think you'll get so much due. I think the Pebble, if you said you were unhappy with it, would do a return because they're used to the process of product. And at the same time, it's better to win PR than lose PR in that kind of situation. We'll see though. Certainly I've seen some beautiful snake oil salesmen on who've succeeded as well. Stuff like, I'm going to make this an RPG maker. I'm kind of the equivalent of Avatar in the US just now. Please fund me. It's like, they make a lot of money for it by getting a good DeviantArt artist to make the artwork. So it's a case of, look at the shiny, shiny! Take them. Ah, look, it's closed, it's mine now. Enjoy! So yeah, there's a few concerning ones which do get through the... Honestly, it's about being a discerning customer as well, though. If they've not backed any other projects on Kickstarter, they're probably out for money whether they have a good product or not, so you have to evaluate based on how slick everything is then. And wait, when did this become a consumer lesson? Anyway, questions? Anyone?
I think just that point there that you made about perceptions. I don't think the perception is changing. I think the perception is changing slowly, and if it is changing, it's changing so slowly that it'll be the next generation or the generation after it will actually start understanding that what we knew in the 50s, which is by purchasing X from Y, you are a part of the mechanism that support. You are a part of the entire production mechanism, even as a part of it.
Yeah, I think we're going to end up there right there.
But again, that takes us off onto the philosophy of finance, which we are.
So I know we're running rapidly out of